Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned on the fasten seatbelt sign. If you haven't already done so, please make sure the volume of this podcast is set perfectly to your listening enjoyment. Please take your seat, whether that's on the treadmill, car, sofa, or bed, and buckle in for the last trip. My name is Jamie Beebe, and I'll be your tour guide, recreating someone's last days in paradise. On behalf of myself and everyone behind the scenes, please enjoy the Last Trip podcast. And because nobody likes a long flight to get to where they want to be, let's prepare for takeoff. Shanquella Robinson was a 25-year-old woman from Charlotte, North Carolina, who died under very suspicious circumstances while on vacation with a group of friends in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico in October 2022. As clues came in and her friends' stories changed, developments surrounding the investigation gained significant attention both in the media and online. The Mexican authorities ruled Shanquella's death a homicide, but the FBI declined to file charges. What happened to Shanquella Robinson? And why has nobody been brought to justice? Cabo San Lucas is one of Mexico's most popular tourist destinations. It's known for luxurious, all-inclusive resorts that offer stunning ocean views, infinity pools, gourmet dining, and world-class spas. It's a popular destination for honeymoons and romance because of the secluded beaches, upscale accommodations, and beautiful sunsets. Many couples choose Cabo for their destination weddings, just for those sunset photos. There's also a vibrant nightlife scene with tons of bars, nightclubs, and beach clubs. Some of the more popular spots are Cabo Wabo Cantina, the Office on the Beach, and Mango Deck. Cabo is an easy flight from most major cities in the US and Canada, including direct flights from places like Los Angeles, Dallas, and San Diego. The location is perfect for a quick beach getaway. And best of all, Cabo has over 300 days of sunshine per year. So if you're looking for that warmer weather, Cabo is the place for you. Even in the cooler months, the temperatures rarely dip too low. The most iconic spot in Cabo is El Arco. It's a natural rock arch that was carved for the ocean's currents, wind, and tides. Because it's a unique shape, it's very recognizable, making it the perfect I went to Cabo photo for your Instagram. It's at the meeting point of the Sea of Cortez and the Pacific Ocean at the southernmost tip of the Baja California Peninsula. So you get that sense of being on the edge of the world, which totally adds to its mystique. Now, to get the perfect shot, you'll want to take a boat tour that goes right up to it, offering those close-up views. They know what they're doing, so they'll make sure you get the photo you want from just the right angle. Shanquella and her friends were staying in a luxurious resort community located just outside of San Jose del Cabo in Puerto Las Cabos Fundadores, which is one of the most exclusive neighborhoods. They offer high-end amenities, private beach access, and a serene atmosphere. The villa they were staying at cost an impressive $2,500 a night and was described online as a charming ocean view estate, single-story, 5-bedroom villa located in the historic and illustrious community of Puerto Las Cabos. Residents and guests of the Fundadores have access to the Fundadores Beach Club, which is a private facility offering beachfront amenities like a pool, dining, and cabanas. They also have access to the restaurant and spa at the JW Marriott. This getaway should have been a pampering and fun time. There should have been lots of drinking, dancing, and laughing. Memories to keep for a lifetime. But instead, it turned into a horrific nightmare for Shanquella and her family. And now, all they have left are questions. Let's get to know Shanquella after a word from our sponsors.
Hey there, true crime aficionados. Looking for a podcast that's as twisted as it is hilarious?
Well, you've stumbled upon the perfect place. Welcome to Luminol On The Wall, or as we like to call it, Lotwa. I'm Becky, the sunshine to your day.
And I'm Bevy, the moonlight to your darkness. Together, we're the sisters you never knew you needed, bringing you true crime like you've never heard before.
Picture this. Two sisters, complete opposites.
Yeah, she's all sunshine and kindness, while I'm the queen of sarcasm and sass.
But that's what makes our sister chat so relatable. We're like the sun and the moon, lighting up your true crime journey with laughter and irreverence.
That's right. We dive into the darkest corners of humanity, but we don't just stop at the gore and the controversies. Oh no. We're here to roast the characters, each other, and sometimes even ourselves.
We laugh hysterically at our own jokes.
And we swear like sailors while we're at it, so if you're easily offended, consider this your warning.
But if you're ready for a wild ride through the twisted minds of murderers, join us on Lotwa. We'll cope with the horrific nature of our content the only way that we know how. That is with a healthy, or maybe excessive dose of sarcasm, wit, and a touch of crass humor.
So what are you waiting for? Hit that follow button and join our sisterhood as we navigate the murky waters of true crime together. We promise you won't regret it.
Shanquella Robinson was born January 9, 1997, in Charlotte, North Carolina, where she was raised by her parents Bernard and Salamandra Robinson. She was surrounded by love and support from her family and maintained those strong bonds through adulthood. After graduating from West Charlotte High School in 2015, she attended Winston-Salem University, graduating in 2019 with a degree in business. She had a heart of gold and was the type of person who everybody loved, and pretty much everybody loved her. She was reserved, non-confrontational, loving, and kind. She was humble and sweet, but also a motivated, badass businesswoman and a successful business owner. By 2022, she owned a hair braiding and beauty business called Exquisite Babies, as well as a women's clothing boutique called Exquisite Boutique. She worked extremely hard and had an entrepreneurial spirit and a dedication to building a positive future for herself. No matter what was going on in her life, she always worked hard and never gave up on her dreams. She would work past midnight to get her job done and then be back early the next morning doing another person's hair. She absolutely loved her French bulldog, often bringing him to work with her. She also dabbled in becoming an online influencer, growing her brand and hitting an impressive 47,000 followers on Instagram. She loved social media and was very present with it, posting lots of photos at parties, with friends, and traveling. She had recently visited Jamaica, Miami, and Las Vegas. This trip to Cabo was the next one from a long list of places she planned to visit throughout her lifetime. Her family loved her greatly, and her parents, along with her sister, have been at the forefront of the efforts to find out what happened to her and extremely vocal in seeking justice for her death. They've given many interviews and spoken about the profound pain and sense of loss they feel following this tragedy. It's had a devastating impact on her family, who have expressed their disbelief and grief over the cruel circumstances surrounding her death. They've worked hard to fight for answers, but also to honor Shanquella's memory and bring attention to her story. Shanquella was really excited for her trip, although it's unclear how this decision to vacation in Cabo came about. Some sources said she planned it herself, along with rumors that she was the one that paid for the whole group. Other sources said someone else from the group planned it and then invited her to come along. The vacation was a celebration for one of the other women in the group, and they'd be gone for about a week. This group consisted of Shanquella and 6 other people, 3 men and 3 women, later coined the Cabo Six. Most of her travel companions were newer friends she met through the university and friends of friends, but one of the guys was a close friend of hers for over 5 years. This friend had even traveled with the Robinsons on family vacations in the past, so they knew each other well, and she would have trusted him and felt safe with him. Shanquella and 5 other people from the group arrived on Friday, October 28th. Those 5 were Khalil Cook, Malik St. Patrick Dyer, Winter Essence Donovan, Elise Michelle Hyatt, and Dejanay Jackson, with Nazir Wiggins arriving on a different flight the next afternoon. After arriving, they checked into their villa and Shanquella posted a video on Instagram that appeared to show her in good spirits as she joked that her friends were taking too long to get ready to go to the pool, saying, "It don't take that long to get naked. Where y'all at?" while walking around the villa searching for the rest of the group to ask which swimsuits they were going to wear. She finally found everyone together in one of the rooms, and they stopped talking when she arrived, making people wonder later if they stopped because she had the camera rolling or because they didn't want her to know what they were talking about. Whatever the reason, it's extremely suspicious in hindsight. Later that night, Shanquella called her mom to let her know she arrived safely and was having fun. She was happy and excited to be on the trip, telling her mom they had a private chef that night making them tacos and salad. Her mom said, "Okay, I love you. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow." She had absolutely no reason to suspect anything was wrong, or to think that would be the last time she ever spoke to her daughter. On Saturday, October 29th, Nazir Wiggins arrived from North Carolina and joined up with the rest of them in the celebration. It was after this that things took a deadly turn. At 2:13 in the afternoon, someone from the group called the concierge and requested a doctor from the American Medical Center to come to their private villa. They only said someone in the group wasn't feeling well and needed to be checked out. Now, a lot of doctors in resort areas make house calls when people aren't feeling well. And this was also during COVID. So depending on what was wrong, a house call made more sense than to go to the hospital. Around that same time, Shanquella's mother also received a call. It was Shanquella's friend on the other line saying that she drank too much and got alcohol poisoning, but a doctor was on the way and she'd be just fine. And that's certainly not a call any mother wants to receive. She suggested they take Shanquella to the hospital rather than wait for the doctor. But Shanquella's friend told her they couldn't because it would cost $5,000 in cash, so they had to wait for the doctor to arrive instead. The problem is that when they made this call, the doctor wasn't there yet, so they had no way of knowing if it was alcohol poisoning or something else. They also had no way of knowing the cost of a hospital visit or whether Shanquella actually needed to go to one. Dr. Carolina Beatriz Ornelas Gutierrez from the American Medical Center arrived within an hour and later stated in her report that she found a female in stable condition but dehydrated, disorientated, verbally unresponsive, unable to communicate, and appearing to be intoxicated. The explanation given to the doctor by the group was simply that Shanquella drank a lot of alcohol. But after her initial assessment, the doctor recommended that she be taken to the hospital. She felt something just wasn't right about the situation, but the group objected and insisted she be treated there. The doctor obliged and at first attempted to administer an IV drip. But pretty soon, Shanquella's condition worsened when she suffered a tonic-clonic seizure at 4:13 p.m., about an hour after the doctor arrived. This type of seizure is also known as a grand mal seizure. It involves a loss of consciousness and violent muscle contractions. There are two phases to it. First, the muscles in the arms and legs stiffen, and the second phase where the muscles in the arms, legs, and face jerk. Seizures like this usually last between 1 and 3 minutes. Because of the seizure, at 4:20 p.m., the doctor had no choice but to call for an ambulance. And right after that call, Shanquella began having trouble breathing and her pulse started to drop. And that's when she suffered a cardiac arrest. And the ambulance hadn't arrived yet, and during the commotion, Winter Donovan called 911 to get it there sooner. The ambulance arrived at 4:49 p.m. and tried to resuscitate Shanquella. They administered 14 rounds of CPR and intrathoracic pressure to her chest in an attempt to reestablish blood oxygen saturation and blood flow. They also injected 5 doses of adrenaline and 6 electrical discharges from a defibrillator. Unfortunately, they were unable to revive any heartbeat, pulse, blood flow, or any other human vital signs at all. According to the police report, Shanquella was declared clinically dead at 5:57 p.m. Police officers, identified only as Omar and David of the Los Cabos Municipal Police Department, were the first 2 responding officers at the scene around 5:25 p.m. They were briefed by Dr. Ornelius Gutierrez, who informed the officers that medical treatment was requested due to too much alcohol. When she arrived, Shanquella was stable but unresponsive, and her travel companions objected to taking her to the hospital for treatment. And that's when her condition worsened. Based on eyewitness accounts and the consultation with Dr. Ornelius Gutierrez, the police report concluded that a deceased person had died of alcohol poisoning, and that she died 2 hours and 45 minutes after the doctor was called to the residence. There was no observation of internal or external injuries in the police report. Of course, this was just the police report, so no kind of forensic testing or autopsy had been done at this point. After receiving news of her death, the concierge assigned to the villa checked on the group, but found them laughing and joking. Then they asked for transportation to dinner. When the car arrived, they quickly packed not only their belongings, but also Shanquella's things and left Mexico on the next flight. Within hours, they packed everything up and simply left. Police didn't ask them to stay to give a statement, and they didn't choose to stay to try to help in any way. Once they were back in North Carolina, they visited Shanquella's family, returning her things and each giving a recount of what happened. The only problem is that while they all told the same basic story, the details were different. Some of them claimed a maid found her unconscious, some reported they called a doctor, and some said the villa concierge called the doctor. One person said they found Shanquella unconscious on the floor, another claimed they found her in a bed, and another said they found her in a chair. But what they all agreed on initially was that Shanquella had died of alcohol poisoning. Shanquella's family was immediately suspicious of her friends and didn't believe anything they said. And as new evidence came to light, their stories continued to change. Around this time, Shanquella's mom received an anonymous call stating that her daughter had been in a fight in Cabo and was jumped, and that's what led to her death. But it was just an anonymous call, so there wasn't much authorities could follow up on. She confronted the Cabo Six, but they continued to deny anything happened other than drinking too much. On November 5th, a notarized English translation of Shanquella's death certificate, based on an autopsy report from forensic Dr. Renee A. Galvin Osiguera from the Secretariat of Health Baja California Sur, was released. The autopsy report was completely different from the police report. It described Shanquella's death as happening 15 minutes after suffering a severe spinal cord injury and an atlas luxation. This rare but fatal injury occurs when the spinal column separates from the skull base. While it is possible to survive, 70% of cases result in immediate death. One very interesting note is that the autopsy report also revealed that Shanquella did not have any alcohol in her system at the time of her death. The report also did not mention cardiac arrest. How could the group say Shanquella drank too much without any alcohol in her system? And what could have possibly happened to her that resulted in her spine actually separating from her skull? That's an extremely traumatic, high-impact injury, usually caused by a car accident, fall, sports injury, or diving accident. And it can also be caused by a direct blow to the head or neck, something that can happen during an assault, physical fight, or violent incident. But no one mentioned any kind of accident or injuries to the authorities or Shanquella's family. And after the death certificate came out exposing their lies, they stopped talking to Shanquella's family altogether. On November 10th, Shanquella's family paid $6,000 to have her body flown back to North Carolina. And although she had already been embalmed, the United States performed another autopsy on her. But when the U.S. autopsy came back, they did not agree with Mexico's findings and instead determined her death was inconclusive. Once Shanquella's body was in the United States, her family saw that she showed obvious signs of trauma. She had a knot on her head, a bruised face, a swollen eye, and a busted lip. But this wasn't in the police report or either autopsy. On November 15th, a horrifying and vile video started circulating online of a woman violently attacking another woman. As soon as her family watched, they confirmed the one being attacked was Shanquella. It was a 20-second clip, mostly being shared among students at Winston-Salem University. until it was uploaded to Twitter and it exploded. It showed a naked African-American woman, Shanquella, being viciously beaten by one of her female acquaintances in a bedroom of their vacation rental. In the video, a clothed female attacker, in a frenzied rage, begins to viciously punch a naked Shanquella, delivering a series of relentless fist jabs to her head, beating her from one side of a large hotel bed to another corner of the bed, while violently yanking her neck and throwing her to the floor. The attacker delivers further furious blows to Shanquella's face and kicks her head with her knee before stumbling back to the other side of the room, finally ending the assault. And that's when Shanquella slumps defenselessly to the floor, not moving. Now, there were at least 2 other people present during this assault. A male filmed the assault, and another person filmed the male capturing the event. The footage included a male who can be heard in the background saying, "Quilla, can you at least fight back? At least something." Shanquella responded, no. She was not fighting back and didn't have a chance to get away. Her other friends were in the room, so she may have been afraid they would try to stop her. In the video, Shanquella is on the ground near a bed as the other woman continues to hit her in the face. The woman then knees Shanquella in the head before swinging more punches at her head, as someone in the background again tells Shanquella to get up, but she doesn't. The video is shocking, cruel, and extremely disturbing to watch. Nobody in that room intervened in the brutal beating of a naked woman in the middle of a hotel room, but instead chose to record the beating and make comments like it was a TV show they were watching. This group never should have been allowed to return to the US without any arrests or at least an interrogation. The hashtag Justice for Quilla soon began trending on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. People were appalled by what they saw in the video. Everyone agreed that justice needed to be served. And it looked like it would be cut and dry. They knew who was on the video and they knew the outcome. But unfortunately, it wasn't that easy. Due to the attention and outrage from the video, on November 16th, the State Attorney General's Office of Baja California Sur reopened their investigation into Shanquella's death as possible femicide. Investigators revisited the crime scene and were collecting more evidence to achieve an accurate clarification of the events. They were looking at it as femicide rather than homicide because they saw it as a hate crime, defined as the intentional killing of women and girls because of their gender. Mexico also started investigating the actions of the doctor, the 2 officers from the local police force, and the investigating state attorney with regards to negligence, official misconduct, and dereliction of duties as part of their inquiry. On November 18th, the FBI field office in Charlotte, North Carolina, confirmed that it had also opened an investigation in the death of Charlotte resident Shanquella Robinson in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, on or about October 29, 2022. But due to the ongoing investigation, they had no further comment. And the investigation they were doing was completely separate from the one in Mexico. Now, while all this was going on, Shanquella's funeral service was held at the Macedonia Baptist Church in Charlotte, North Carolina on November 19th. On November 23rd, Attorney General of Baja California General Prosecutor's Office announced an arrest court order related to a homicide that had been issued against a person identified only as an American and the direct aggressor in the death of Shanquella Robinson. He said they determined the cause of death was not alcohol intake or injuries sustained in a fight, but rather from a direct assault causing a spinal cord fracture. They were basing this finding off a video that had been circulating online and the original autopsy they had done. The prosecutor's office approached Mexican federal prosecutors and U.S. officials to carry out all relevant procedures and issued an Interpol red notice to locate their suspect, and they were working on formal extradition proceedings to extradite the suspect back to Mexico. A red notice is a request to law enforcement from around the world to locate and temporarily arrest a person who is wanted for extradition, surrender, or other legal action. It's the closest thing to an international arrest warrant that you can get. But they still needed cooperation from the United States in order for this to be effective, because the U.S. doesn't have to give one of their citizens up to Mexico. Local news reported that an arrest warrant was issued for one of Shanquella's travel companions, but no one was officially charged, and they still had not named who was on the arrest warrant. On March 3, 2023, Salamandra held a press conference in Washington, D.C., where she said, "I need an arrest and conviction for all the ones, the Cabo Six." The attacker on the video was named as Dejanay Jackson, age 27, also from North Carolina. Shanquella's family tried for weeks to convince the U.S. and Mexican authorities that their daughter's death was suspicious and they wanted more investigation. They still needed the U.S. to agree with Mexico, so they could either extradite Dejanay back to Mexico or press charges in the U.S. as well. They wanted and deserved justice, one way or another. But the U.S. State Department soon released a statement claiming no clear evidence of foul play. And then shockingly, on April 12, 2023, U.S. authorities announced they would not pursue criminal charges related to the death of Shanquella Robinson. They said they didn't have enough evidence for prosecution, which is really hard to comprehend because the video of the assault is very clear. It's clear who the aggressor is, who the victim is, and what the outcome was. So where we're at now is the arrest warrant from Mexico for Dejanay Jackson still stands, but nothing has come from it. And unless the U.S. changes their view on things, it's possible nothing will ever come of it. This case has many unanswered questions, even with video evidence. Let's cover some theories after a word from our sponsors. What was the motive behind the fight? Was the fight planned? Was the reason for the trip to hurt Shanquella? Did something happen during the trip that pushed this fight to happen? How did things go from a group vacation to a murder investigation? I don't have these answers, but there are plenty of rumors online about possible motives behind the attack. One reason that has been thrown around a lot is jealousy, that the attacker was jealous of Shanquella's success. Shanquella went to college, she was a business owner, her life was on the fast track, and things were going great. There are people out there that don't want to see others succeed. But it's hard to see a whole group planning an entire vacation to beat someone up because they're jealous of her success. It could have been brewing under the surface for a while, and something set them off during the vacation. But again, it's hard to see why they would invite her at all if they were so jealous and had these hard feelings toward her. Another reason could have been jealousy over a man. According to studies from the National Violent Death Reporting System, a high percentage of intimate partner homicides involve jealousy as a contributing factor. Possibly up to 40% of these murders can be motivated by jealousy. If this was premeditated, I can see jealousy over a relationship possibly being the reason. Jealousy can eat someone up and make them act in ways they otherwise wouldn't. But it may not have been premeditated. Shanquella was naked, and Dejanay looked to be in her pajamas. So I think it's possible that something happened between Shanquella and one of the men the night before, and they were caught by Dejanay, and that's when the fight happened. That could also be why the other men were in the room at the time. And the kind of rage she showed in the video could explain walking in on her boyfriend with another woman. One theory from Reddit involved local rumors that one of the girl's cousins was recently shot and killed. It was believed that he was set up to be killed and Shanquella was involved in some way. She was either part of the plot to have the cousin killed or was loose with information that led to it happening. While this theory seems plausible for a premeditated attack, it also seems pretty complex for this group to pull off. But it's a possible motive. All we know for sure is what was on that video clip, and unfortunately, it doesn't show a motive. The other thing we don't know is who released the video online and why. If they released it out of guilt, I think we'll have answers at some point because the guilt isn't going to go away, and they'll likely release more information in the future. While the video is very damning, we don't know what happened after it cut out. Did the others hit Shanquella as well? Did they try to help her once they realized things had gone too far? Or did they want things to get that far? It's awfully hard for 6 people to contain a secret that big. At some point, somebody's going to talk. The Cabo Six should be brought to justice. The actions in that video caused the death of Shanquella Robinson, and they've continuously lied to cover it up. So far, no one has paid for what they did, but I hope the wheels of justice are still turning and it's only a matter of time. Are you planning to travel with friends? You may want to rethink that after this episode. Whether you know the people in your travel group well or you're joining a group of strangers, I do have a few safety tips. If you've signed up for a group trip with strangers, make sure to research the group organizer. Be sure the tour and event organizer is reputable. Check online reviews, contact past participants if possible, and verify their credentials. Do your own research about the trip and location you're going. You don't want to rely solely on someone else's research and information. Know your travel itinerary and share it with someone you trust at home. This includes where you're staying each night, the attractions you plan to visit, and who you'll be traveling with. Check up on the people you'll be traveling with. If these are new friends, do a quick background check on them. Take a sweep through their social media. Get to know a little about their lives. You want to know who you'll be traveling with before something goes wrong. Set boundaries early. Don't feel pressured to share personal information. Don't feel pressured to do something you wouldn't normally do. If you're not a drinker and the rest of the group is doing shots at the club, you don't have to join them. If everyone is going on a hike that you don't think you can do, let someone know and either sit it out or make plans in case you need to turn back. Always ask questions and advocate for yourself. If something is wrong, speak up until someone listens. Bring a lock for your belongings. Depending on how well you know the rest of the group, and especially if you're sharing a room or common area, consider locking up your valuables in a personal safe, bag, or locker to avoid potential theft. Stay sober and aware. Limit your alcohol consumption, especially when getting to know someone, to keep your judgment clear. Also, you want to put your best foot forward, and getting wasted is not your best foot. If the group is going out on an evening outing, try to buddy up with someone you trust who has the same general idea of how the evening should look. Meaning, if you're the type of person that likes to leave the clubs early, find someone who'll be happy to also leave early. Keep track of and carry your own things, like your passport, money, and any other identification. That way, if you ever feel uncomfortable, you have the resources to leave the group and go somewhere safe. Set up a quick exit strategy just in case things go wrong. It's better to be safe than sorry. Familiarize yourself with the area and know nearby safe spots, like cafes, police stations, and hospitals. Always keep enough cash on you that will get you to a safe space, and research the local transportation so you can get there. If something feels off, remove yourself from the situation. Don't worry about being overly cautious if you need to take extra steps to feel safe. Always make sure that no matter where you're traveling, you inform someone about your plans before going anywhere. Tell someone reliable where you're going, what you'll be doing, and when to expect you back. My number one tip to staying alive on vacation is to pay attention to your gut. If something doesn't feel right, it isn't. 2 years have passed since Shanquella's death, and those responsible remain unpunished and free. Justice has not been served. The U.S. government said they will assess and consider new information if it becomes available. The warrant from Mexico is still in effect, so while the FBI has closed its investigations, it does not mean there's no chance of her being extradited. But the chance of that is very slim because there's no obligation to extradite U.S. nationals to Mexico. If anyone has any information or additional videos pertaining to the death of Shanquella Robinson, please contact the FBI. And for the Cabo 6, you know what happened, and now is the time to take accountability and responsibility for your part in this wonderful woman's death. Now is the time to tell the truth. And finally, remember to leave a review and rate this podcast 5 stars if you like the show, or hell, even if you don't. But either way, feel free to let me know what you think. Please follow The Last Trip on Instagram at The Last Trip Crime Pod. and subscribe on Patreon to support the show. You'll get extra research, videos, photos, and updates, and even learn more about my personal travels. That's patreon.com/thelasttrippodcast. I'm Jamie Beebe, bringing you your last trip and signing off until the next one. Thanks for listening.